You've heard that 99% of businesses fail. At least if you've been an entrepreneur, if you've been in business for any point of time and consuming content like this, you probably have heard that statistic thrown around before here and there. Now, I'm not really sure where this statistic comes from, but it's not true. But what is true is 48% of businesses do fail. And usually that happens within a 5-year period. Most startups, most businesses built from scratch will fail within 5 years, or not most, I should say, 48%. So you basically have a little bit better than a coin flip for your business's survival. But what's interesting about this failure rate is most people don't understand why these businesses fail. And I'm going to go into that in detail, the number one reason why they fail. And I am going to show you a way where you don't have to fail at all, because you can basically overcome this obstacle on day one if you do a little cheeky thing I'll tell you to do at the end of this video. Let's talk about the real killer of businesses. And it's probably not what you think. It comes down to a concept known as product market fit. So what is product market fit? Very simple. Product market fit, all it means is people actually want to buy what you're selling, and you are selling that thing in such a way where you are sustainably growing. That means you have enough cash to reinvest in the business and cover your costs, of course, but you also have enough cash that is free to pay yourself a livable wage and to pay your team, if you have one, a livable wage as well. This is product market fit in a nutshell, a business that works. And most businesses do not get this, and that's why they fail. They often build their product first, and then they go and try to find customers, only to discover that no one really wants to pay for this random idea of yours. I was just talking to a buddy at a little house party a few weeks ago. He's building out this whole shed. He's building out this own, like this tech stack basically to make this product, and I just know it's not going to work. He hasn't reached out to anyone to say if they would want this. It's supposed to be a collectible, but it's a very small thing. And he just has not thought through the plan very well. And this, in my view, is the main reason why businesses fail, because they don't think through their plan very well. And they don't get validation before spending all this money, all this time on building their product. Another example, I have a friend who wants to build a learning app. We were having a couple of drinks at a networking event. I'm like, oh, cool. What kind of learning app? Like a language learning app? He's like, no, everything but language. Like, well, that's pretty broad. And he's been working on it for over a year, coding this monster app up, because how could it be anything but a monstrous app if you're trying to learn everything? So I told him, look, man, you could have saved yourself probably a year and a half of time if you just spent $500 on Facebook ads to a landing page about a learning app and see if anyone was interested at all. Validation, validation, validation. Before you go and create your product, you should validate that people actually want your product. So how does this happen? How is this such a common thing that entrepreneurs do? Well, there's a few mistakes that rear their ugly heads over and over again. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. There's plenty of other mistakes that can be made, but these are the most common ones that I personally see. And the first one is kind of what I already hinted at, building in isolation without customer feedback. Every step of designing your product, as much as possible, should include customer feedback. What can we do better? What would you like instead? You look at your 1-star, 2-star, 3-star reviews. There is a real sweet spot with 3-star reviews on, like, say, an e-commerce product where they like the product like 7 out of 10, but they just wish it had a few other features to bring that up to a 10 out of 10. And that is incredibly valuable feedback for you to take back and re-engineer your product, right? Another issue is people often rely on friends and family for validation. I get told all the time, Greg, you can just like go out and do whatever, you're such a huge connections, like blah, blah, blah. But when the rubber hits the road, a lot of people won't go forward with you. Like they could say, oh, you can charge a massive consulting fee. Okay, cool, here's my price. Cricket. Suddenly no one's asking me for advice anymore if I did that, right? And this is very true for a lot of businesses where friends and family, though they want the best for you, the business does not care. The business survivability does not care what your friends and family think. It only cares about what the market thinks. And that's what you need to care about. Are people giving you validation by actually joining your newsletter, by giving you the credit card information to go and buy a product, or like join your Kickstarter, or however you're funding the business? You want real validation, not validation from people that want to see you succeed, but strangers on the internet that have no clue who you are and probably have no real emotional relationship with you yet. If you can make those people actually buy your product or service, that's a very good sign. And of course, in the example I gave with the app guy, you just spend months or years testing before you ever market the product. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they get head over heels with their idea. And ideas are great, but they're not the greatest. So execution is what really matters. You shouldn't be spending months on product development. You should be spending maybe weeks. And during those weeks, again, you should be validating. And of course, the final mistake I see a lot of people make is an entrepreneur falls in love with the solution that they're making instead of the problem. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that they come up with an idea that they think it solves a problem, and they just keep imagining the solution more and more complex, more and more nuanced, but they're never actually thinking about the real problem. So they're adding all this stuff because they're thinking about the solution, but they're not thinking of all the ways to actually tackle the problem from all different angles with their product. So this leads to bloated products with features that no one really asked for or cared about, and where customers are using maybe 10 to 15% of what your product actually does. We want to make sure that we're laser focused on the actual problem. Now, these are the most common mistakes when it comes to product market fit. There's a bunch more, but I did tell you, I'm going to show you a way where you can basically skip this entire phase. And in my opinion, like, I don't have data backing this up, it's just a gut feeling. In my opinion, product market fit is the number one reason why businesses never succeed, or why 48% of them rather fail within 5 years. But like I said, there's a way for you to skip this entire brutal phase, and that is where you can reverse that coin flip entirely. In fact, way more than reverse. If you look at the SBA loan program, which for our purposes on this video is all about acquisitions. So we're just talking about acquiring businesses through the SBA loan program. You can actually look at the public default rate of those loans. So while most businesses, or 48% of businesses, fell within 5 years, what's the failure rate of SBA loans? So how many people are not paying back what they borrowed? Well, in 2024, that was 2.25%, or right around 2.25%, which is up from where it used to be. In 2023, it was closer to like 1.2, 1.3%. So it has gone up. 2024 has not been an easy year for a lot of businesses, but still, this is a crazy different stat than someone that is starting a business from scratch. I mean, SBA loans have personal guarantees. And while I do think the risk of personal guarantees is a little bit overrated, I think a lot of people are too fearful of that. It is a genuine risk. Like, they could take your house, they could take your personal property if you fail, right? I can do a whole video on why I think that risk is overrated if you want, so comment down below. But this tells us that acquisitions is way safer than building a business from scratch. The cool thing is, when you buy a business that is already profitable, that is already working, you have already solved product market fit. You can see the solution in the business's profit and loss statement, that they were able to grow sustainably, they were able to reinvest some of that cash flow into the business, and they had enough reserve cash flow to actually pay the owners something for their time and effort, right? All of this allows you to focus on growth rather than survival. It frees up so much mental capital in your head by just buying the business. And you get to become kind of like a time lord because you skip all of that brutal timeline that entrepreneurs have to face in the first 1 to 5 years of building out their startup, in the vain hope that, hey, maybe one day I'll be able to pay my rent with this crazy idea of mine, right? So if you want to play the game of entrepreneurship where the deck is stacked in your favor rather than against you, the secret, which is not much of a secret if you're watching this channel, is buy a business that's already making money. See you in the next video.